Hello, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will study about data collection and the sources of data collection. So let's get started. Data collection is defined as a procedure of collecting, measuring, and analyzing accurate insights for research using standard validated techniques. It means that data collection is a process of gathering information from different sources about the topic under research. A researcher can evaluate their hypothesis on the basis of collected data. Why do we collect the data? Why does a researcher collect the data? A researcher collects the data to prove his hypothesis. When we make certain assumptions about our research, first of all, we identify a problem and then we make certain assumptions which are called as hypotheses. We need to prove the hypothesis. And for proving that hypothesis, we need to collect the data from different sources. When we collect the data from different sources, then we analyze the data, and after the analysis we reach further conclusions. So data collection and choosing the best tool for data collection is the most important step in the research. There are many sources from where the data could be collected. Two main important types of sources are primary data collection and secondary data collection. Primary data collection is the source of data collection from where we directly collect the data from the source of origin. And secondary data collection is the source of data, all the sources of data collection which are concerned with the second-hand information, where the information is already available and has been incorporated by other users as well. Primary data collection. Primary data collection by definition is the gathering of raw data. Raw data means data in its pure form, data in its first hand form, collected at the source. It is a process of collecting the original data collected by a researcher for a specific research purpose. It could be further analyzed into two segments: qualitative research and quantitative research methods. It means that this kind of source is incorporated in both the qualitative research and the quantitative research, because the sources of this data includes survey, observations, experiments, questionnaires, personal interviews, and all these sources are extensively used by the qualitative research as well as the quantitative research. Primary source of data collection is more reliable because it is the first hand information and the researcher gathers the information. It is more time consuming because the researcher has to meet the respondent personally to collect the data in the first hand. It is incorporated in both the qualitative research method, which is the method of data collection does not involve the collection of data that involves numbers or need to be deduced through a mathematical calculations. Rather, it is based on the non-quantifiable elements like the feeling or emotion of the researcher. An example of such a method is an open-ended questionnaire. So qualitative research method, as we all know, is a method which includes the qualities of things, which goes deep down into the reasoning, which goes deep down into the searching for the quality of things, and it incorporates the open-ended questionnaires because they are more prone towards subjectivity. Methods. Quantitative methods are presented in numbers and require a mathematical calculation to deduce. We know that quantitative method is a method which incorporates figures and numbers to for the data collection procedure and for the data analysis as well. So the results are also concluded in the form of figures and the facts are produced. An example would be the use of questionnaire with close-ended questions to arrive at the figures to be calculated mathematically. Also, the methods of correlation and regression, mean, mode, and median. So all these things are basically the language of statistics, which is used or which is employed in the quantitative method, the primary sources are used extensively. For example, the close-ended questions are used extensively in the quantitative method. Secondary data collection. Secondary data collection, on the other hand, is referred to as gathering of second-hand data collected by an individual who is not the original user. It means that when the information is gathered to the second-hand portal, it becomes the secondary data collection source. It is a process of collecting data that is already existing, the data which is already existing in the form of books, the data which is available in the journals and the articles, and the data which is available on the websites that has already been discovered, that has already been presented by the other users, by the original producers. So this kind of data is already available, is already existing, and is thus called as second-hand data or secondary data collection source. Published books, journals, and or online portals. In the terms of fees, it is much less expensive and easier to the collection. Yes, this is a positive side of secondary data collection, that it is less expensive because it is readily available to every user and easier to collect. Well, comparatively less reliable to the primary source, because here we collect the data from different sources, and then from, for example, if we collect the data from internet information that is available on the internet on different websites, the information gathered through a corrupted or through a substandard website could bring less reliability in your comparatively less reliability in your production. It is economical, and it is second hand, it is quick and easy, and it is data that is already collected. It is the past data. I would like to give you one example. We different websites, different journals, different books, different articles. It means that we are gathering the data from the secondary source. Methods of gathering primary data. Direct personal interviews. Direct personal interviews are the kind of interviews in which the researcher collects the data directly from the respondent. Indirect personal interviews. Indirect personal interviews is the interview in which the researcher gathers the information from the third person. Now, who is the third person? Third person, for example, if a fire has set out in a building and the person who is standing out and who is witnessing all these things, the researcher interviews that third person who is a witness to the incident. This would become the third person, and this kind of interview will be considered as an indirect personal interview. Third one is telephone interviews. As the name tells you, telephone interviews are organized on telephone calls. These are much cheaper. Fourth one is mailing questionnaire. Mailing questionnaire is similar to telephone calls. However, in telephone calls, you are having one-to-one conversation with your respondent, but in mailing questionnaire, you are not able to make a phone call to the respondent. You simply forward a questionnaire to the respondent, and he or she fills the questionnaire and then forward back. Indirect interview source has some advantages and disadvantages. Now let's talk about the advantages of primary data source, and we are talking about indirect interview source. Reliability, high degree originality, somewhat elastic method, and it's a realistic method. And what are the disadvantages? It could be costly, it could be time consuming, it is prone to personal biasness, because third person may includes his or her own prejudices into whatever he or she is saying or whatever he or she has seen. So this could be somewhat biased. Okay, now I would like to give you an example. If you write the research paper about the rate of stress in women in journal, so you may collect the data through different sources like the internet and different stories of people who have already experienced it in different. You may go with that kind of secondary information, but if you are asked to write a research paper on the rate of stress in women in schools, in that particular school or in that particular company or an organization, so what we will do, you will particularly choose the respondents from that particular area, from that particular school, from that particular organization, and you will personally go to interview those people because you will find no data regarding those peoples on the internet. So what you will do, you will go gather meet them, you will gather the data from them directly. This would be the primary source of data collection because you are going there, you are collecting the data personally. Or even if you send a questionnaires to them, this is the first hand source of data collection, so this would be a primary data collection source. And if you collect the data from internet and from different books and write about the stories of different women that have already written their stories on the internet or on different books and journals, and that have already been researched upon, so if you're collecting the data from that source, this would be a secondary data collection. So all about data collection and the sources of data collection. I hope you like the video. Please do not forget to subscribe the channel, and if you find the video informative, please do not forget to hit the like button and press the notification bell. We will meet in the next video. Till then, Allah Hafiz.